liked Arsenal last week, but I think in this matchup, Everton manages to keep it a bit closer.
The reason I asked you for your tips for rookie bettors is because when it comes to betting and sports betting, some of these handicappers don't watch any of the games. They go by numbers alone. How do you lean when it comes to your picks? Do you go more on gut reaction and what you think when you watch these teams, or do you go by the numbers?
Depends really. I like to use a little bit of everything. The games I like the most, usually, yeah, you can look at it and say it's a great matchup, and that's usually your gut telling you, yeah, go bet that game. Obviously, I like to check the numbers, check the injuries, and make sure there's nothing to worry about there. And yeah, so as I said, yeah, bigger bets usually is they just jump out off the board pretty. And yes, other games need a little more research. But again, I usually like to go with the
Welcome back to Picks and Parlays on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and also streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're really easy to find on all of your favorite social media platforms. If you search Picks and Parlays, we're usually the first thing that pops up. I'm your host, Chelsa Messinger. You can find me on Twitter, @Chelsa Messinger is my handle. And I do apologize if you can hear my baby in the background. Obviously, Dad's not as good at soothing her as me, but he's doing his best. All right, let's get to some college hoops because we're right in the thick of college basketball season. We've got Chip Chirimbes joining us to talk a little college hoops. How you doing, Chip?
Fine. How are you, Chelsea?
Doing good. I actually went 5 for 5 the other night. I think it was on Tuesday on college basketball plays. Would have been 6 for 6 if Purdue didn't push. But that's better than a loss, I suppose.
No kidding. 5 selections is a heavy card in one day, and to win them all is really a great feat. I mean, really, 5 for 5. Can't do any better than that.
I know. I don't expect to. so maybe you can top it. We've got some great games going down to the wire in college basketball. Of course, the tournament is right around the corner, so a lot of these teams are playing for their seeds in the tournament. And let's start with the big one. Kansas, Baylor. Baylor is -1 in this one. Total is around 127. It's a big matchup in the Big 12. Also a big matchup to decide the number 1 seeds in upcoming NCAA tournament. It's a bit of a revenge game for Kansas. They lost the last one against Baylor. Baylor, top team in the nation right now, but -1. What do you got on that line?
Well, I think it's very shallow for the number 1 team in the nation at home. 23 straight wins, 24-1 on the season, and a spectacular 17-8 against the point spread for the year. That's 72% on that. You know, Chelsea, we talked about this being a big game, and it truly is among, say, the giants of this year's NCAA field. It is, you might say, for the Big 12 title during the regular season, but then again, these two may meet again in the Big 12 playoffs, and we're considering this game possibly as a springboard to a number 1 seeding. We're thinking of this game as a step toward the title in the Big 12. Of course, the first time they played, this Baylor team dominated Kansas. They really did. And Kansas, of course, reacted poorly the next time out against Kansas State. They lost their center, was suspended. They lost their top scoring guard, Dyson, who was suspended. They're both back for this game right now. And Kansas has been on a streak. They've won 11 in a row. They're 9-2 on the road. Kansas, the Jayhawks, Chelsa have the #1 defensive efficiency in the conference. Baylor is number 3. But Kansas does put the 2 best players in the conference on the court at the same time. I think that the odds makers are telling you that Baylor, who's been so great all year, coming up only a 1-point favorite at home, I think they're in for a battle, and I think they believe the momentum right now is probably with the Jayhawks.
Right, and one thing that jumps out to me is in college basketball, a lot of times it's about matchups. And these teams, Baylor doesn't have a player in their starting lineup that's over 6'9". And of course, Azubuike from Kansas, one of the best true centers in the nation. So if they can feed him the ball down low and really take advantage of some points in the paint, I think they can beat Baylor on the road.
I think the Bears will try and counter that with their 3 great shooting guards who are very 3-point conscious and 3-point minded. So giving up the 2 points underneath, 2 trips down, can be negated by making 2 free throws. 2 3-point shots. So that's Baylor's style. They're a well-balanced team and all-around play. And I think Kansas and the Jayhawks are more traditional. We have the 7-foot center and the outstanding guard play. And it should be a great matchup to start the day. It's the first game of the day. Starts at noon Eastern, and we'll be up at 9 a.m. to watch it out here. That's for sure.
I'm definitely not a fan of the early start times. So who do you like in this one? Just to recap.
I'll take a shot with Kansas. It's early in the day. I have time to recover. Baylor's beaten me up almost all season. Trying to fade that team has been absolutely ridiculous. But I think the line here is an indicator. I really do, and I'm gonna give Kansas at least as a free play, if nothing else.
And Kansas is coming off that game where they covered an enormous 15.5-point spread against Iowa State. That was one of my winners. Thanks, Sean Higgs, for that one. Moving on to Marquette and Providence. Marquette -1 in this one on the road at Providence. The total sits around 143. Marquette 17-8, 7-6 in conference. Providence 15-12, but they've won 3 of their last 7 against ranked opponents. Who do you like in this one?
Well, not only that, they're coming off 2 straight wins, one against Seton Hall, one against Georgetown. They beat this Marquette team earlier in the year, Chelsea, 81-80 at the Warriors, and they've won 4 of their last 5 meetings on the road as underdogs. But Marquette has lost 2 in a row. They lost a 72-71 game at Villanova and came home, and I guess they were still smarting from that game against the Wildcats. They lose to Creighton. And I think they're a much better squad. I think they're much better than Providence, though Providence has shown that they can come up and bite you. They can play pretty tough and come up with some big wins. And I just don't think that they're ready for it here. I think Marquette is going to be in tune, lined up after 2 straight losses. I look for Marquette as the favorite to go into Providence and get the money here.
All right, next up, let's go North Carolina and Louisville. The number 11 Cardinals are 14-point favorites in this one. And probably because North Carolina has had an issue with closing out games. That line, coffee is for closers? Well, North Carolina does not get any coffee because they're on a 6-game losing streak. 4 of those losses by 1 possession, 3 of them by buzzer beaters, and 2 times they've blown a 10-point lead. So Carolina, it's social media platforms. Just search Picks and Parlays. Really easy to find. You can search me on social media. On Twitter, my handle is just my name, @Chelsa Messinger. If you have one of those dollar parlays that you think is going to hit, those are my favorite. They're like scratch offs. Because they probably won't hit, but you know what? You can try. Right now, we've got a ton of games to get to when it comes to the NBA. We've got Craig Trapp and Tony T both joining us to talk a little NBA second half action. Guys, are you there? Can you hear me? Where you at? There they are.
So things going well. Looking forward to the second half of the NBA season here, and hopefully not too many tanking teams making our life a little easier.
Right. Let's start with the Pacers and the Knicks. The Knicks are not a team that, I mean, they're not tanking, but they're not doing I don't think they're doing it on purpose. They're 17-38 on the year. Pacers are -6 in this one. Total is 211.5. The Pacers are 32.
8-19 at home. I mean, the Mecca is not the Mecca as it used to be, in New York. But the Indiana team hasn't quite been the same. I thought when they got Oladipo back, this team was going to make a push and be top 3 or 4 team in the East. Hasn't quite happened. But I'm going to be back on them here tonight. I'm going to give them another chance here. Indiana Pacers. I see it at 5.5 or 6 either way. I just think this Knicks team just continues to find ways to lose and lose ugly sometimes. So let's take the Indiana. Yeah, this Denver team, they have all the talent in the world. I really think they are the team that both the Lakers and the Clippers worry about in the West. I guess maybe the Jazz as well. But I think Denver, last year they had the record, but they didn't have the experience. Now,
all right, Tony, who do you like?
Yeah, I'm on that ship too with Craig. As a matter of fact, Alex Smart in the podcast was strong too on Denver. I like Denver here plus.
Got San Antonio and the Jazz. The Jazz are -7 in this one. Total is 221.
Over in 6 of.
He's out with a groin injury. Probably why the number is in favor of the Pelicans on this one. Craig, who do you like?
Well, you got to be careful with coming off the break because, of course, you get teams like Portland that, yes, they're like a mash unit. I mean, they're missing seems like everybody, but they have one guy, and that's C.J. McCollum. Guy doesn't get to shoot it nearly as much because Damian Lillard's the top 3-point guard in the league, but when he's played without Lillard in the past, he's had some really big games against a New Orleans team that doesn't play a whole lot of defense. That's just not their calling card. They love to score a lot of points. I think getting 4 points at home is just too much. I think this is going to be a shootout. I also like the over in this one. Let's take Portland plus the 4, sprinkle a little of the over as well, as this one's a really fun game to watch, I think.
All right, Tony, what's your play?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of butt heads here with Craig. Although I would rather lay the Pelicans in this spot only because they're a fast team, a fast-paced, high-scoring team, and I think that will get to Portland trying to keep up with the scoring of this Pelicans team. McCollum can go for 50, but when you're putting up 130 points, I don't know if that 50 is going to have much impact at the end of the game here. Of course, we've talked about here with Lillard out until March, and that's 4 impact players here for Portland out. And don't forget, these teams just met, and the Pelicans crushed the Trailblazers at home by 21 points. They shot 53%, pulled down 10 more rebounds, and I just see this game. I just see the Pelicans are continuing to dominate this Trailblazers team. I'll go ahead and lay the points with New Orleans.
And finally, we've got the Lakers and the Grizzlies. The Lakers are the home team in this one. They're favored by 11. Total is 232.5. Craig, you're on. Who do you like?
The big question here is, of course, the Grizzlies playing back-to-back nights to open up the season, but or the second half after the All-Star break here, I just think young teams, that doesn't bother them a whole lot. And you're getting up for LeBron, Anthony Davis, and playing, home of course, the to do so, because they will get up and down and make an aging Lakers team, I think, really sweat to get this win.
All right, Tony, who do you like?
Yeah, I'm with Craig here. I like the Grizzlies plus the points. Of course, I think the back-to-back helps get down on a first half side. I'll take Memphis plus 6.5 because they will be the team that has a game under their belt.
All right, good stuff from both of you guys. That's our NBA Rapid Fire segment on Picks and Welcome back to Picks and Parlays on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, and also streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube if you want to search us that way. We're really easy to find if you search Picks and Parlays. Usually the first thing that pops up. I am your host, Chelsa Messinger. You can find me on Twitter every day at Chelsa Messinger. It's my handle. We had a great show full of soccer and basketball because it's that time of year. And right now we're going to recap all of today's picks. We got you covered. If you want to write them down, if you have a pen, if you want to screenshot this, get ready. It's coming your way right now. Al Ninos gave us some Premier League picks. He likes the draw in Chelsea, Tottenham. Crystal Palace, Newcastle likes the draw in that one as well. Burnley is who he likes in that one, plus 119. Sheffield United and Brighton taking Sheffield at minus probably 100. Arsenal, Everton, he likes the draw in that one at plus 245. You can get a lot of value on some of those draw plays. Let's move on to college basketball, where Chip Chirimbes gave us some picks. Kansas Baylor, a huge matchup for college basketball. He likes Kansas getting a point on the road at Baylor. Marquette at Providence, taking Marquette minus 1. UNC at Louisville, taking the Tar Heels plus 14. Florida at Kentucky, taking Florida at plus 4. Moving on to our rapid fire NBA picks. Tony T gave us quite a few, hopefully, winners. Pacers at Knicks, taking the over at 211.5. Nuggets at Thunder, taking the Nuggets plus 1. Celtics Timberwolves take the Celtics minus 6.5. Spurs Jazz take the over at 221.5. Pelicans Trailblazers taking the Pelicans minus 3. Grizzlies and Lakers taking the Grizz plus 11. Craig Trapp also gave us some picks if you haven't had enough. Pacers Knicks taking the Pacers minus 6. Celtics Timberwolves take the over. Pelicans Trailblazers take the Blazers at minus 4. That's all of today's picks wrapped up in a tight little box for you guys. We're back with more sports betting action every weekday on Picks and Parlays. Thanks for joining us. That's today's show. See ya.